So there is just this one slide. I would like to be talking about the joy and the power of investing in startups. Investing in startup is so much more than everything else that will be discussed today, because you have a direct influence in whatever is happening in these startups. My name is Selma Prodanovic. I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship. I love what I do, and I have really have been having a dream life the last 20 years, investing and empowering and really working with startups. And you can find information about me on the first line. The Selma Prodanovic, the Brace Work is a consulting company, and 1 Million Startup is a platform that is working where we are working with startups that are working towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Whereas the underline, which is the Austrian Angel Investors Association, Investorin and Rising Tide and EBAN, European Business Angel Network, are all networks where I'm the co-founder and the board member of networks that are related to startups. And this is the contact where you can find me. I would be, love you to reach out to me and we can talk that. I think we go into this one. Yes, we have more. Wonderful. So let's do this. In general, why is this important to startups? If when you think of startups, you can think of innovation. So if you change the word startup into innovation, then a lot of things happen in your, in your head. And how do you make it? How you think about it, and what happens there? A business angel is usually, in most cases, is an entrepreneur. A person that is really have that entrepreneurial spirit, and then at some point in time decides to start investing into startups. How does that happen? Very often is that you meet somebody and they have this fantastic idea to start a business, or have just started a business, and you're like, oh my God, I want to be part of that. And that's how you usually start, is you get excited about the team, the people behind it, the vision they have, and what they do. And most of people don't start like planning, I'm going to be a business angel, but it's like this excitement of doing that. And when I say about entrepreneurial spirit, these are either entrepreneurs, or, that they founded a company themselves, or they were CEOs of companies, but had lived that entrepreneurial spirit. And they come to a certain time, a certain age, and a certain position, and certain financial position to say, okay, now I can be part of something new, without necessarily being involved into the organizational, in the executive part of the business, but be there on a strategic part. So there are two, in terms of age, there are two age groups that in the meantime we see in the angel investing ecosystem. One is the usual, which are people that are mostly, in their 50s, 60s and more, who have finished a part of the business and now are investing into that. And then the second part being really people that have founded a company, have had an exit, and now are giving back and investing into new startups. If you think of that, that would be a good example, would be Runtastic, would be Florian Schwanter, now investing back into the system, or Katharina Klausberger from Spock, now investing back into the system. So this is a new thing. But we have a huge issue there, which is the ratio between men and women investing. And we have, depending on the country you're looking at, but we're running about between 9 and 30% of business angels across the world are female. And that's terrible. I think that, for many reasons, but we'll come back to that. So it's really about a business angel is a person that invests into a very early stage into a startup. And what they do, they bring in three sorts of capital. One is financial capital, money. Second is human capital, which is knowledge. Usually you invest, you into an industry that you understand, and there's a lot of knowledge that you have behind it. And three, social capital, you bring the network. You bring a lot of people that you have around, and you bring the network with that. And above that, and in addition to that, because you're an entrepreneur, you can't do otherwise, but you get involved into the startup. So you're kind of always sitting there as a strategic level, and you are really involved into everything that is happening. And that is a business angel. So if we're talking about smart money, we're not talking about the financial investment. A financial investor usually invests money, cash, and wants to have a return as soon as possible, as much as possible. As a business angel, you're investing smart money, your engagement, and you want to see that startup grow. That is your main purpose. Of course, if they succeed and they are successful and they have an exit, then you will have money at the end as an exit, but you want to see them really succeed. There's a totally different mindset that you're putting into it. So it's not being nice. It is a business at the end of the day. And professional business angels are really professionals that are in there just for them, making money, not only making money, but making money. But we love to talk about the return on fun. It is just fun to work with startups. It is something much more than just investing money. It is really bringing a lot of, I mean, we just had our board meeting yesterday of the Austrian Angel Investors Association, which I founded, and it's just, it's really good people who share the same values, coming together, investing together, doing things together, and that is much more than on a stock market, and especially now today digitally, you invest into the stock or whatever. I'm not saying this is not good. I'm just saying this is totally different. That's that's the important part. I do believe that it's crucial that women start investing into startups. There are several things why to do that. One is because it's enough of this way women have been supporting entrepreneurs. What we have seen is a lot of mentorship. What we have seen is a lot of helping out. I know so many exceptional women, professional women, women who have money, who have supported startups or founders, or basically not a woman who has just started a business, supported them with advice, supported them with the network, even gave some money, but this relationship was never professional. It is, I'm helping you out a little bit. I want to see that relationship professionalized. I want to see a clear business angel, investor, and startup relationship, because that gives you clear views of the value behind it. If I, as an investor, invest in you, and I tell you I will invest in you, I'm investing in you not because you have beautiful blue eyes, but because you have an amazing business. And that's a totally different setup. And I want to have something in return. And the same goes for the founder. If somebody invests in me, I know they believe in my business and they are ready to invest in it and give the support to them. So that's a totally different relationship. And I would like to see a movement from this helping out of women, or women helping out women, to professional relationships of investing in women and their businesses. Yeah? That's the first one. Second thing is and that's something that we had the discussion earlier, it is this notion of women are risk averse. I prefer to think of women as risk aware. That is a totally different notion. We are not risk averse. As women, we are totally, constantly, continuously confronted with risk that we are mitigating and managing, but we are aware of the risk. And this is something that I would like to see change in the mindset, is that we are risk aware and we do think about how to consider this risk, what to do about it. And I think that for the world, the way it is much better if we were more risk aware than we have. I have a total disagreement with the first speaker and the way he was talking about impact investing and no difference between women and men and all of these things. That's okay, another story. Then a third thing is that what we have is the idea and the notion, or the fact, that we see that a lot of female entrepreneurs have much more problems to get investments because they are female. And if we want to change, if we want to see more female entrepreneurs empowered and successful, then we as women need to start investing in these women, because we understand much better some of the issues they are going through. And it's not about being nice. It has nothing to do with that. It's simply because we understand better some of the issues. I'm not saying everything, but some of the issues. And also because investment in early stage has to do simply and only with trust. At the very beginning of a startup of a company, there are no numbers. There is no, the last 3 years the performance was XYZ. It's all about, do you trust that this team will succeed with that idea on that specific market? And you have to trust that. And what do? Trust is based on, I trust more what I know and what I understand. Simple as that. That's how humans function. That's how we work. And again, in another point of view, and that is, why we need more women to be part. But it's also a certain notion that if a business angel, a 60-year-old business angel, ends up with his founder at the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the night, discussing strategy, nobody thinks about anything. They're having a beer, talking about strategy, everything's okay. But if that same 60-year-old man and the 25-year-old founder woman are at 3 o'clock in the bar discussing strategy, it might have a slightly different feeling. And we need to consider that. So that means that many times, and we know that in many ways, women have an issue with networking, because very often we are not there where some of the things are happening. We are not at the golf course. We are not at the 3 o'clock in the bar, because we have smarter things to do. Let's be honest. But I mean, but it is an issue. So we have to think of that. If we think that seeing more female entrepreneurs in the world succeed, we as women need to think about investing in these women. The change is not going to happen if we don't do that. Another reason why is that we need to have more women investing in startups is simply because it's fair. We are 50% of the population, even more than 50%. So, why should there be a 13%? There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of things. And there we come to the last point, the reason number 5 is that where you invest in startups is where do you want to see the world moving. If we say again, startup is equal innovation. If I invest into a sustainable business, the discussion that we just had earlier, if I invest into an impact business, if I invest into a future-oriented business, if I invest into a family-friendly business, if I invest into a women-friendly business, that's how change is happening, is because people empower and invest certain ways of doing businesses. And we have the power to change the world by investing into something that we care about. And if that is true, that what was discussed earlier, how much women care more about sustainability and impact, then we have the power to change this world, this planet, into something better than we have today. So a good reason to start investing, you create the world you want to see. We know all this stuff is by investing into. And there's a beautiful bonus about investing, is that you feel more empowered. It is so powerful. It's just so good, the feeling of investing into people, into empowerment, into seeing results, into seeing that life. And of course, it is 100% risk, all of that, as any investment. But it is, you can influence that. And there is such a beautiful feeling when you see these young men and women, and not so young men and women. I mean, the youngest person I worked with was 16, and the oldest was 72. So there's quite a range there, what you can do. But there is something so beautiful, influential, powerful, fulfilling about also the self-confidence that you get when you work with people and you see them and you help them succeed and thrive. These are the reasons why I think women should invest into startups, or in general, I think that everybody should invest in startups. And now we go into the short, there are like 13 rules that I've set up for investing into startups. But we're not going to go into details in these 13 rules, because we're never going to end up if I go into details. But we'll just go very shortly. There are certain rules when investing into startups. The rule number 1 is that you create your own rules. Whatever the rules, maybe it will not work the same way as thought, and you will be creating your own rules. What do I mean by that? For example, a colleague of mine was presented with a pitch deck of Skype many years ago. And he had said that it was the most stupid thing that he has ever seen, and he would have never, ever invested in Skype because it was impossible that it will work. But they owed him money. So he said, okay, you don't have to give me money, give me equity, and I'll be just fine. It turns out he made several millions out of that investment. But the business plan sounded so crazy and so unrealistic that a normal person would never invest into that. So you have to create your own rules. And very often I've seen cases where somebody comes with an idea to me and I'm like, my God, will never ever work. But somehow you never know how crazy somebody is, and maybe something will work out. You know? So you set up your own rules. There are rules, and you have to know it. You have to know the system. But still, at the end of the day, you're setting up the rules on how you want to do it. It is clear that investing into startups, into businesses, is 100% risk. There is no question about it. You have to be aware of that. So the money you invest, you need to forget about it immediately. Don't think about, when do I get my dividends, or when do I get my return, and how percentage of interest rate or whatever. You don't know. If you're lucky, you're going to have a really great, success. If not, it's going to fail. Most of the startups really fail, unfortunately. But the point is that you as a business angel have the opportunity to influence what is going on. And this is a totally different feeling of losing money. When you lose money through a startup, where you've seen how things work and you've seen why it didn't work, and you can kind of have the opportunity to influence it, or at least know why things didn't happen, compared to, you receive a statement from your stock and it says, your investment is now worth 50% less than it was yesterday. So there's a huge thing, but you got to be aware of that it's 100%. Of course, that means that you need to invest only just a portion of your wealth in startups. It's very important to not invest, like you have to have a portfolio investment, and startups are just a small portion, unless you really put, you do it on a professional system with it, and which is a totally different story. You need to think of it, it's a long-term investment. It's not like property, but it is a long-term investment where you need to think in stages of 3 to 8 years, depending on 5 to 8 years. So take your time. Do not think it's going to be fast. Of course, we always hear about these stories about startups that made it to be a unicorn within a year. That's not the rule. That's the exception. Yeah? The others do need their time to get there. So you need to do that. You need to remember that when you invest smart money. So it's not just giving cash. If you're not ready to be behind your investment, then do not invest into startups just to give cash. That's not what they need. They need to have your support. They need to have your of course, your money, your support in terms of network, in terms of knowledge, and think about that. In general, the rule is that you should be investing into startups or industries that you understand. Usually, you start investing from whatever your background is, whatever your industry is. That's what you understand best. And then you see something that is really interesting and you get excited about it. That makes absolutely total sense. I just heard a few days ago, spoke to a colleague of mine, and she said she likes investing into totally new fields. But that is also okay, but that means that you need to do a lot of more work in terms of research, due diligence, to understand where they are, or at least there must be somebody from your network who understands the market and the industry. Usually you start by investing into what you understand best and where you can be also of benefit to the startups, because you know the industry, you know the people, and you know what is needed to be there. Of course, there is something about the mindset. And I think that we women are especially good in that. It is about trusting your gut and trusting your gut feeling. Of course, investing always is about numbers. But as I said, at the very stage, the numbers are non-existent or very rare or very little, and you need to trust your gut feeling. Do you trust these people? Do you trust this team? Do you trust that they can do that? I believe in that we have the sensibility of understanding what is going on, and we should manage both the gut feeling and the numbers that are behind it. As I said earlier, in terms of having a portfolio and investment, ideally you have to think when investing into startups, you need to think also in portfolio investment. So it's not about investing into one single startup. It is ideally you build a portfolio of 5, 10, 20 startups where you have smaller bits and pieces, but then the chances of succeeding are much higher than having one single startup. It's pure statistics and numbers at the end of the day, and it's important to build that and to diversify that. It's very important, especially at the very beginning, to invest together with other people. So you don't go and invest alone into a startup. You invest in groups where somebody is a lead investor, somebody who has invested already, has the experience, is the lead investor, and you are a co-investor. So they do the due diligence, they do the conversation with the founders, and you are helping out in that process and learning through doing. Of course, you can read a lot of books, you can watch videos, you can read a lot of blogs, but at the end of the day, every situation is different, and you will need to have your own experience in doing that. You need to have your own strategy, which means you need to have your own values. What do you care about? What do you want to invest to? What kind of startups do you want to push and empower? So, as I said, if it's family-friendly businesses, is it sustainability, or it's oil, or whatever you want to have, it's important that you have your own values and part of your investment strategy. One thing that is really important about this is that reputation, your personal reputation, is your highest currency. I repeat. Your personal reputation is your highest currency. It's even more important than the money, the size of the ticket, how much money you invest. If your reputation is of somebody who's, you say what you do, what you say, you're reliable, you're honest, whatever you care about and what is important to you, that is the reputation that will follow you no matter what you do, and this is your biggest currency. And then one thing that is very important, I would like to see, I don't know, we don't see the others on video. I said earlier, if anybody would like to join in on video, we will now go into questions. Which I see.
Selma, we have a couple of questions here.
Just one more thing before we go into questions. I would like you to remember that you are enough. I want you to write it down. I am enough as a business angel, as a supporter, as a businesswoman, as a financial guru, as an investor, whatever. We have the tendency to say that we need to learn so much, and that I would need to learn more about this and learn more about that and do another course of this. Forget it. If you are here, you are already interested in that. Go with the flow. Try it. Experience. As I said, you don't go and invest $500,000 into one startup, but you diversify. You build a portfolio, you invest together with other women or women and men who have more experience, and you build it slowly, but you are definitely enough. Okay, and I'll tell you more about how to start, but I think we should go into questions.
Thank you, Selma. It's inspiring because myself is an entrepreneur, and I'm of course looking for the business angels. I have one very nicely, but nice to see that what you've said, the female investing in female, which is core point, of course. And there is one question here that how do you, of course, first of all, what helps to decide which startup to invest and not to invest? What will be your suggestion for that?
I mean, of course, I have many years of experience in the meantime. So there's a huge difference with that, because I've learned, I've been in over 100 juries where you decide where money goes and doesn't go, and you learn. I was a jury member in the 2 Minutes and 2 Million show, and I'm able in 2 minutes to say it's worth looking or not looking. I'm not saying it's good or not, but that's how you decide. And you have to consider that as an entrepreneur, when you pitch an investor, the investor usually, especially if they are good or known or popular or whatever, they receive dozens of pitches a day or a week or whatever. And, it's very, very difficult. I go to a meeting and, I have a talk, I have a speech, and then you have like 20 people approach you and, they pitch you. And how do you remember any of them? And I would really like you to be authentic about, your entrepreneur. But the decision is, as I said, I would urge you to start investing into what you know, what you understand. Invest in what you are really interested in. Where do you want to see our world moving? And invest into that, into climate, into health, into what do you care about? Because you're going to be with that startup for 3 to 5 years or 8 years. So you might as well invest into something that you're interested in. Yeah. And then learn about them into that. And then of course, the most important part of that is always the team, the founders. The founding team, it takes it or break it. If you have an A team and a stupid business plan, and you can change the business plan. That's part of the work of the business angel, is to help you, develop the business plan. But if you have a B team, it can be a brilliant, thing. Still, it's not working. And how you can follow that, and how you can see it if you're not sure. As I said, trust your guts. We are very good in understanding people and trust it. But secondly, what you can look at is how fast they are in execution. That is a very, very good sign. You would have a lot of founders who will promise you the world and the moon, in 3 months, in 1 month, or whatever. But what you want to see is, are they able to execute, how their execution is working. And you can match that and see, they promise they're going to be doing this in, a month from today. How far are they? And then you decide on that if you're not sure.
One more question from my side as a female startup entrepreneur, and also there is a question on the chat, the same similar. What is the investment, minimum investment you think that the business angel, how much they usually is giving from range?
So the average worldwide and Europe-wide is 25,000 euros per startup, per investment of a business angel. But you can start with 5,000. I'm not talking now about crowd investing, so I'm really talking about angel investing. But you can start with 5,000 or 50,000. I'd urge you just not to, whatever your money that you've set aside for startup investing, do not invest everything into one single startup. Try to diversify. And secondly, you would certainly need to invest more money later on. There's always a follow-on round. So try to think of your money as a pot that you can decide differently. But you can start with 55,000. The average in Austria, because it's a relatively new market, rich country, we have 125,000, I think, per business angel per startup. But forget it. It doesn't matter.
And how do you find these investors?
Okay. So one of the things, I'll show the slide again at the end. There are, investorinnen.com, which is a female investing community. There's Austrian Angel Investors Association, which is both male and female angel investor community. There's a lot of angel investing groups and clubs developing in the meantime. Rising Tide is, for example, is a beautiful example of women investing together. We started that like 4 or 5 years ago. And it's in the first round, there were 99 women from across the world, from all, from 4 continents, investing together into European startups. We never ever met all of us physically. It was everything online, on Zoom, before digitalization came. And it's just an innovative way. So, you can form a group, or you can, if you're really interested, you can contact me and we can discuss it. I do also courses and support and help women to do that.
Definitely, I need to contact you for sure. But just another question we have, is there any event you will suggest to interaction between the female investors and the entrepreneurs?
Is there what? Is there any?
Any events which the entrepreneurs can meet investors, which you will suggest?
Events. You mean events?
Events, yeah.
No, but I mean, I don't think, you need to seek, as an entrepreneur, I don't want you to just seek female investors. I want you to seek investors, but take in account that, I would suggest, as we know that diversity is good, I would like you to have a diverse investors group, because there will be more investors investing in you. So you can go to these events like Austrian Angel Investors Association, or you can go to investor.com and, right there. And there are events there, there are pitching events. There's you can look at the Austrian startups. They have usually information about pitching events where you can meet investors. that would be something where you can go and try.
There is one more question, if I may take that, and from Adela, and she wanted to ask investment in the technical and artificial intelligence, specifically if there is any specific suggestion from you.
What exactly do you need?
Selma, let me ask, it's okay. So no, the question was, what if my idea is not purely an app, tech and artificial intelligence? Because, nowadays it's just artificial intelligence everywhere. And if you're not there, like, you're kind of lost in the space a little bit. And I have these people that come to me and ask, where do we go now from here? You meet people.
In all of the angel investing groups that I mentioned earlier, there's always people that are interested in other things. Usually like hardware, classical hardware, creative industries. I mean, I know of a group, for example, in France that invests only into horse-related businesses. So there's always people around it. And I would like you to think of investors as the same, you can really make your own long list, short list, and due diligence of your potential investors. So if somebody asks you, where do I go? Tell them, what do you want? It is very important that you share the same values with the investors. And that is of extreme importance. And what I did in certain cases, I mean, the other thing is, my networks, but in certain cases and helping out with some entrepreneurs is that I sat down with them and we worked that strategically. That's how I helped them, to work out the strategically development of, their potential investors, as them really defining what they're looking at, what do they need, what should this person know, and who should this person be. And then I would say, be bold and look at, who is the top person worldwide in your field that you would like to have. Go and ask. I mean, you never know. And then who is the person that ideally the person that will be in Austria or in Vienna. So like, to take the example of the horses, the first thing you go and say, okay, who is, spending a lot of time with horses and doing that and investing into that. And that's the person you want to contact. And even if they never invested before, because it's so hip right now, it's so cool to be an angel investor. So even people that have never invested before, if you approach them with the right attitude, they might be willing to invest more than the popular, famous, known investors that are around. So don't necessarily go to the names you read in the newspapers.
Last question from my side. Any suggestion on healthcare market? What do you think on the investment in the healthcare market, and how do you see the prospect in the coming years?
I mean, first we've seen how important healthcare is with the coronavirus. Secondly, health and well-being is one of the Sustainable Development Goals till 2030. That's going to be a huge thing investing. And I think that is something that is really important to all of us, much more important than if we use oil and weapons and things like that. So I would like to think that we will be investing much more into that field.
And another question from Adela. What was your first investment as of course, the female leader? What you have invested in?
It was not a female, but it was one of my absolutely still favorite things. It was Ali Maloji, What You Do. So I suppose that most of you have heard of What You Do, and that was the lovely and the most beautiful thing about it is the fact that I've seen them when they posted on Facebook that they're going to start making the interviews. There was nothing yet, nothing. But there was something about that vision and the person behind it that was like, oh my God, I got to talk to you. We never met before. And we spoke and spoke to each other. And basically, I did not, at that time, I did not invest cash into them, but they made me part of the startup. And I helped them through, different things and bringing investors and all of these things. So today it's scary because you have a lot of people that are making money just because they're kind of merging and connecting, which is I don't think that's good. But in that case, that was really something very special for me. And it's good to see, they're still around. So.
And if I may ask, what was the initial the cash you put in for the investment? For how much, and what was the value afterwards that you put in the investment as a business angel? And how do you mentioned about the 3 to 8 years of course, the return in investment. Yeah. And of course, in your experience, when you put in the initial investment, when did you see the results? Of course, with the Ali you mentioned, but in other investment, what was your experience there?
Well, the first investment was 10,000, and the results that I've had, I do have several that went bankrupt. That's very sad to see that, and to see it happen, but that's the way it is. I have a bunch of them that are still kind of somewhere. We will see how well it goes, because we've seen that, especially now with this crisis, it was obvious that startups that were really doing well before the crisis suddenly they kind of lost. So it's kind of we're watching and seeing how it is going to happen. But my financial investments were rather small, and so I did not have the exits of the millions and whatever, but it was a very good return for the money that I have invested. So that's fine. But it's okay. I mean, you don't have to be, if you have the cash, oh, please do, invest. But if you do want to invest into several startups, build a portfolio, make sure how it develops. It can be also wonderful if you have a startup that you invest into and they are just really working well and paying dividends. It doesn't have to be the classical exit story. So, I mean, imagine if you have, I don't know, let's say a good case, you have 10 startups and each of them is paying you, I don't know, 500 euros a month. Yeah. That's a nice side thing. So you can think of that like this, it doesn't have to be millions. I don't believe in unicorns and all of that. That happens. I mean, it does happen sometimes, but it's so rare that we shouldn't be focusing on that. I think it's about building a phenomenal, sustainable, great businesses, and then profiting from that, feeling the joy, the fun, and seeing the good things happen, and then having money out of it. So I do believe in this holistic point of view. And as I said, we're not going to start. We're going to finish now because we have like 100 seconds before we. You can reach me at. You can find me anywhere. Selma. If you Google Selma Startup, you'll find me. Or if you write to me, Selma at brainswork.at. I do help out on an investor level, but also I'm organizing and setting up a number of courses, including online courses for women, especially to move from the classical multitasking overwhelm into a dream life. So if you're interested in any of those, please contact me. I would love to hear from you. And in general, just send me some feedback. Tell me, how did you like this session today? What do you like to know? I'm easy to reach. Either I can confirm. So, so I just love it. I'm really passionate about it, and I would like to see each of you either start a business or invest into a business, because I believe entrepreneurs are creating a better world for us. So. Join me on the journey of making the world better. We have 25 seconds. If you're quick, we can do something. Good luck to everybody. Keep in touch with me. Let me know you've been around. I don't have, there are 14 people, so let me know who they were.
It was great. I will definitely get in touch with you for sure. We will do some more discussions on for mine, of course, cell therapy business startup, and maybe you can give me more tips.